All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for My Hero Academia, Season 4, Episode 25. The finale of Season 4.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Who knows how long it'll be till we get Season 5. But we have a crazy Nomu that has a name and can talk and stuff, and it is
named
attacking.
High End?
Yeah, and it looks like straight off of like Disturbed like album covers or something. But
sicked from Dobby's warehouse, wherever he grabbed it from. Hawks and Endeavor are going to need to protect the civilians in the area here.
Yes.
Now, this remodeled Nomu, what have you, is named High End, so it's probably a ridiculously strong Nomu.
Probably.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be here by itself. Unless there's some more, like, kind of unrest aspect of what's going on here with the villain's plan, like Hawks was mentioning and when he flew around Japan and such. But yeah, Endeavor, you wanted people to see you and watch you be you. So
here you go.
This is your moment. Yeah.
Shine bright.
Shine bright, exactly. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion. Oh my god.
All right.
I knew that they would at some point have to give that little bit of development for Endeavor based on what they had been building up from earlier stuff within the season. But this as a capitulation in the MHA style of things, like for a lot of that beginning of the development, not like the end of it, but basically saying this is his start.
Well, this is the Endeavor origin story, basically. Like you were totally right. Like
it was the next iteration of not only 210 but also All Might passing on the torch and saying it's your turn. And Endeavor is literally embodying that aspect of it being not Deku's turn alone, but literally everyone's turn.
Well, and one of the things that I love about this, and this is a minor, like, okay, there are a lot of things about this, because this episode was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. It was stunningly presented. It was just all around fantastic. But there's a lot of things about this that personally for me carry a lot of extra weight. One of the things that I really liked is that, if you remember, to United States of Smash, there was this small flame and All Might was protecting it, right? Like he was bent over and covering it with his body, when he was in his frail form and everything, right? That was the final burst of the flame, right? United States of Smash,
before it would go out.
The final punch before it would go out, right? And here, Endeavor has always wanted to surpass All Might, and actually surpass, which is great to bring up, right? And his quirk is a fire quirk. He is constantly walking around on fire, right? The fire as a motif for storytelling and things like that. You can do so many amazing things with it. It's
very carnal and very, I would say, integral to the human experience.
It's primal and unbridled, right? Whether it's for good or bad, right? And earlier we saw the example of it being for bad with Endeavor, right? Here we get to see it being that example for good, which is another way to say that the light of All Might is the symbol of peace is not actually dead and gone. Right.
The flame is something that can be carried on by many.
Like a phoenix from the ashes, like it will be born again.
It's so good.
So this is like, yes!
I just gotta say, like, this episode deserves all the praise to go to Studio Bones for one. Like, I am not a guy that knows like jack about animation, but you don't just make an episode like this casually. This had full on multiple minutes of just insanely good animation.
I believe the name of the person that we have to thank for a lot of this, even though I'm sure a ridiculous number of people worked on this.
But for specific shots.
And if I recall his name correctly, it's Yutaka Nakamura. He was the guy who did a lot of the work on 210, and just generally does a lot of work on just amazing animation and stuff like that.
I think he did the stuff with Bakugo and Deku with Deku's little dance there.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that stuff there, but he's the one that does the blocks. Like, that's how I remember. Yeah,
like that's basically.
So when the building was like split into like a bazillion pieces, or what have you,
like the final fight in One Punch Man of Saitama versus Boros, or of season 1, you know, like that's that guy, right? You know, so
is a legend. He's just so freaking good. Okay, what I gotta say about the story aspect of this episode is that Endeavor is primary, number one, main aspect here of the character, and we're gonna go really in depth with what they did with Endeavor here, because he not only deserves it, but they gave him depth here that was new. It was not just an aspect of kind of recontextualizing things that we already knew. They gave us actually new info. The other character that really does need to be put forth here is one that they gave a subtle bit, but it's because it's in combination with what they gave in the previous episode. Hawks needs to be given that ample bit of discussion here. So we're going to start with Endeavor, but we're going to get to you, Hawks. So freaking Endeavor, they start out with his kids and his wife in the hospital, and they're having to wrestle with the idea of him being the number one hero now. But he did all those things, and he's not a good person.
Yeah, which is such a brilliant way to start this episode, because it's something where those things cannot be forgotten, right? In the previous episode, it showed that, you know, watch me, right? Stuff like that, right? Where it was showing a bit of the good side of Endeavor, and it's like, awesome. But that whole thing of, but we need to remember these things, right?
They're not easily forgiven. They're not easily forgotten. And not only that, they happened. So one of the things that's really common with characters that go through a development away from their place of being the character who kind of was the douchebag, the very simplified one-dimensional character, is you don't really necessarily try to recontextualize those events. You basically just take them and have them go that I acknowledge that that was a thing that happened, and it weighs on me in a very powerful way because I'm a human being. So my new direction is this one. And then the time it takes for them to separate off the old path is actually a lot of time. So this is just the beginning of that.
But one of the other things about why having that at the beginning of this episode was so important and so crucial, and why I think it was such a great move, is that it works within the context of this episode, and it also works within the context of the larger narrative. So when they first showed it, I'm thinking, they're doing this for the sake of the larger narrative, right? Endeavor is essentially having some new arc start with Hawks or things like that, right? But this needs to be brought back up of he still did all these things, so there is a price that he basically needs to pay for the past, right? He needs to make things right. Now, but within the context of this episode, it's something where it's them personally coming to terms with the fact that they have a father who did this, right? And they are about to see him do something and make this kind of sacrifice
that they will be proud of.
And they need to be able to bring... So it's not just for the meta-narrative for the audience to remember what Endeavor did. It's for them as characters to remember what Endeavor did, because something very powerful for them personally is about to happen. And yet, because of the meta aspects of it for the greater narrative, it didn't make me think that something like that was about to happen.
Right. It's something that's calling back to stuff like Todoroki, well, Shoto, let's just say here, because there's a lot of Todorokis.
Right.
Shoto being told by his father that he's going to make himself into a hero that you can be proud of. Which is the equivalent of saying, watch me. But more personalized, and I would say special for his son. And here's the thing. Endeavor will probably never get the perfect relationship with Shoto. It will probably take a ridiculous amount of time in order to get that even to a kind of a baseline middle ground area. But this is the kind of stuff where it will dramatically, emotionally affect people like Shoto, because not only is he seeing this and having to reconcile both aspects of his father, it's him having to then bring back everything that he probably on some levels kind of stuffed down a little bit, like those feelings, not necessarily that it happened, but like, you know, for his own health and sanity, to be like, I don't have to be thinking about that 24/7. But this is actually like, oh, it's getting brought back up. That's a lot of feelings. That's a lot of complex, you know, emotions and what have you. So yeah, that's a thing. But oh my God, Endeavor going full rebirth Phoenix, channeling not only All Might, but channeling in some ways his perfect self in a way that they really exemplified at the end of the fight. The way that he was basically saying, and he even said this in the beginning of the fight, he was like, you seek out to fight the strong. That's very villain-like of you. I was like, Endeavor? Are you becoming self-aware?
Right.
Isn't that your motivation? It's been this way this whole time?
Yep. And then at the end, capitulating it with him actually
realizing,
not just realizing, but saying, out loud.
But it's only for him.
Yeah, it's only for him. No one else.
This Nomu is not going to remember anything.
Exactly. This was not. This was not any element of performance or putting on a show for the sake of his children or anything like that.
This was entirely for him.
This was entirely for him. Yep. Now, granted, the fact that people were watching him, that did help give him strength. If I have to be the new symbol, so I'm not going to let them down, right? But when it came to actually saying those things, that was entirely an Endeavor moment. Even though the whole world was watching, he was alone, right?
That was his moment.
So that was just...
But I loved how he called it two aspects. He related it to the past and the future. He said, you are me from the past, or me from an alternate future.
Right.
The idea that he's acknowledging that I could have ended up becoming this, I was this, I am currently not this or going to be this.
Yep. And just like...
And what's important with that is that it's not just him accepting the reality, also that as far as strength goes, he is the #1 hero. So one of the things that I think would be very easy to talk, I don't know much about Dragon Ball Z really, but Vegeta as a character shares a little bit of parallels with Endeavor, in that there's the desire to compete against the strongest, the #1 Goku in the case here. Well, in this world, there is no Goku. God has fallen. God is dead. We killed him. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We can all debate. Discuss the whole aspect of All Might. It's Nietzsche. Yeah. But the idea that not even All Might could really, continue to be.
But
All
now
Might.
We have to figure something out. Because there's a vacuum.
So Enji, aka Endeavor here, has this moment where he needs to be that symbol. But he can't actually be that again. He won't be the pillar of strength in the same way as a symbol for that, but he can burn bright enough to where people can all see him, despite the fact that maybe a lot of people don't like to look upon him. He is in some ways tarnish a little bit of some aspect of hero society.
Well, in a lot of ways, I would actually say he can end up being not. This is so you can't compare on all levels in a linear way.
I know what you're going to say,
but in some ways he can end up being a better symbol than All Might.
Possibly,
Here's why. He's a much more real symbol than All Might. All Might had the aspect of him that was very much a there was a lot of showmanship to it, right? He always had the smile. The boisterous laugh. So much so that Endeavor was the only person stupid enough and awkward enough to actually try and build a trail so that he could be better than All Might.
I loved the little scene that they had with Hawks. We'll get into the stuff with Hawks there, but the part where we see Hawks being like, "You're the only one that that could have done this here," but the way he says it, there wasn't a single person who was seriously trying to surpass him. You were the only one seriously trying to surpass him, and oh, really? Just how awkward can you get? Now, what I want to say here is that there's a visual aspect here that is more symbolic than necessarily what was happening in reality. So you have a bunch of heroes on the side here, right? Endeavor's on the side there with Hawks. Hawks is looking behind or looking at Endeavor's back in the same way that Endeavor was looking at All Might's back. What Endeavor starts building here is a bridge across a chasm. He's basically putting little rocks and broken boards together to try and build a bridge in a way that's impossible. What I think is important that they're visualizing here is that there is no way Endeavor could make a bridge across this chasm. But he was trying. And
he was actually seriously, intently trying.
This is, I think, the crux of the whole thing with the development for Endeavor. Endeavor is trying to build a bridge back to his family. It is impossible for him to do it. It is literally impossible. But he's going to keep trying no matter what. Even if it looks like just blue flowers that he drops anonymously at her hospital bed, which is nothing. Like, that is a little pebble. That is a little pebble that is probably going to roll into the chasm and get lost forever. But I'll tell you,
he's going to keep doing it.
He's going to keep doing it. But the reason why there is a possibility that this bridge between his family can be built, whereas it will not ever, well, it can't anymore, between him and All Might, is because Endeavor is not the only one that can build his side of, not his side, but can build up the bridge. The rest of the family, if they wanted to, they could. The thing is, will they? They don't have to. They have very little reason to, actually.
If they want to, they can keep watching him do this. Over and over and over again. And I'll just tell you, there are so many people out there who I can tell would have a little bit of relatability to Endeavor in this aspect. The idea of, I messed up. I am building, not like the literal child abuse stuff, but like the trying to build a bridge. It is something that you're trying to build because you broke it. Your actions burned the bridge. I just love it. It's so on the nose with the idea of him being a fire person and burning bridges and then building another bridge. And then everyone, in some ways, even your childhood, like the guy who's seeing you as your hero is like, how awkward can you get trying to do this? Like everyone else acknowledges that it can't be done. So why are you trying? Yeah, exactly. In a lot of ways, I feel like this sort of spirit that Endeavor is channeling is kind of like the truest sort of shonen spirit.
It is. It really is.
The thing is that because what is,
but it's for the villain. It's for the villain, basically. You know.
But that's why I think it's so powerful, because there's the idea that maybe someone could do that, right?
Possibly,
maybe,
possibly,
There's
a 1 in a million chance.
There's a 1 in a million chance, and Endeavor's a very special kind of person from within his own dysfunction, that causes him to be able to function in that specific way, right. But it's something where, like, the idea of burning brightly, burning brightly, even if it's something where you are actually burning.
Yeah, you're dying.
You're
unable to sustain this.
Right, exactly. Well, or at least not by yourself.
You're not sure you can.
You know, the idea that you might need some people to help throw you some fuel. And
then Hawks literally in the episode was like, I don't have anything I can do to match power for power with this guy. So I got to leave and help the people, but here you go. I'll give you my wings so that you can fly.
And that is something that people can believe in, because when it's something where it's Superman and you're just you're All Might and you annihilate the opposition and because you are the strongest and you are that symbol of peace and security and safety, where no one has to worry about a thing. But when you see someone that is burning that brightly, even if people don't like you, even if people hate you, even if they hate your guts, they can't deny the fact that you are burning.
You are so bright.
And that's so
prominent. Prominence burn.
Oh yeah. And that's one of the things that I think is so cool here about what they did. On multiple different levels. One, there's with the Todoroki family, and it was seeded beforehand. There's the fact that he is, their biological father, so there's all the complication that comes from that, even with the past, But the idea that when they see him burning like this, you can't help but cheer for him.
You can't help, because you can't help but have the feelings inside of you, even if they are ones that, because this is something that I feel like the cheering for you thing is not exactly right. I am with you on that. But it's that the feelings inside of you that are a response to this, you cannot help but respond, react to it. And I think that for our boy Shoto, our boy Todoroki, we see him have the like his hair even lifts up for a second there. And he collapses. He collapsed under the weight of just the emotion of this. And I'm like, my boy, you are you are under so much here, and this is so complicated and just messed up for you. But yes, he's your father.
Yeah.
Like that. Just oh, that's so good.
One of the things that I loved here, that was a tiny little detail, is the idea that the fire started to burn on Shoto's hand.
Yeah.
For a few reasons.
For a little bit.
So in 210, there was the whole idea that
that he would never touch his fire.
He would never touch his fire.
Yep.
Deku helped him, and yet at the same time, or not 210, but later when he fought Bakugo, just having Deku say, go for it, ganbate, all that stuff.
It's not enough.
The helpful words of a friend are not enough to undo years and years of trauma. Right? In this situation, Shoto unknowingly began to tap into his flames. He might have been.
I think that's. Okay, I don't know if that's clear.
Well, all right. Let's actually take both. Whether it was unknowingly or knowingly or both at the same time or whatever. Right. On the unknowingly factor, that's something where on a subconscious level he is beginning to accept himself a bit better because he can see how what he came from is not all bad, right? That at every point that it is based on a choice. It's not based on nature, it's based on a choice. In the same way that Endeavor made the wrong choices in the past, he's making the right choices now. Not that erases the choices of the past, but he is making those choices now. If it's conscious, then that's something where Shoto is actively engaging that and making that choice in the moment. But it's also something where I'll bet you that maybe there's some aspect of him that wishes that he was there so that he could lend his flames to the flames of his father.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Now, we get the scene here, and it's the reporter kind of giving the updates on this. And it's him.
And then the kid.
Well, no, the kid's not here at this
well, that's when he talks up and does the look who's...
Yeah, I don't think that's the kid, though.
Okay.
Oh, no, you're right. It is the kid. It is the kid. You're right.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I'm watching.
Right.
So he's saying, I'm seeing you become the hero that I'm going to be proud of.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is wonderful, because then because in a lot of cases, it's something where... with the whole building the bridge thing, and what you said, which was so great about the idea that Endeavor's not the only one building the bridge.
Right.
In this situation, because of all the things in the past, you almost don't want Shoto to start building the bridge.
No.
Because he shouldn't, right? No. Like Endeavor needs to make up for what he did, right? But by saying I'm watching, it's basically saying I'm letting you start to build the bridge, right?
You keep doing this and I will acknowledge it.
Exactly.
Because here's something that I think that's really important to see with characters who are kind of behind you in their journey. This is something that I think MHA as a show does rather well. There's this idea of not only lineage, but the idea of people being on a path, and there are people that are going at different speeds along their paths. Bakugo multiple times is frustrated as hell with how fast Deku just keeps leaving him behind. And in this case, Endeavor is one who I think basically he chose a weird path, and so he's stuck. He was stuck for so long on a path where his movement is slowed dramatically because of his choices. In some ways, Shoto gets to kind of go, I don't have to go that direction. I'm going to go a different way. I'm just going to leave you behind. In that respect, then I think Endeavor left himself in a, sad little man, owner of king of a sad little hill, basically, where it's a huge moat around him. And he's isolated. He's alone. He doesn't really have anyone close to him as far as we can see. And then Endeavor turns and sees maybe a couple people looking at his back. Like the little kid, the little strawberry-haired kid being like, oh no, that's not Endeavor, he's way more hardcore. And then even in this episode, he was like cheering him on, like, no, like look at him, he's going for it. But in this case, he looked over to the path where Shoto was and he realized, I'm nowhere close to you. I'm not getting closer to you. You're leaving. I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to go after you.
Right.
And in order to do that, he needs to call out, hopefully, so that Shoto can hear him, so that he doesn't get lost trying to find him.
Right.
And yet, Shoto has no reason to turn around. But in this case, I think he did. And he's like, I hear you.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yep.
And then this scene here, it's just a little clip here with the idea of right after we see Endeavor with his fist raised high and what have you, Shoto is just barely like not on his knees, just collapsed. And it's like he's like meditating, just like trying to keep himself in focus of just being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I am under like a severe amount of emotional just weight right now.
Yeah.
So, God, this is good. This is so good.
One of the reasons that I love fire as a motif, like there's the whole idea of the phoenix and reincarnation and you know, redemption and everything that's wonderful, and I love how they do that here with Endeavor.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that I love fire as a motif in general is because I feel like fire for me is something that I always want to make sure I have, right? For my own life and everything. But the thing is, fire's dangerous, right? Because fire is death and destruction. But it's also energy. It's life in many ways. It's the sun. It's the
human spirit.
It's the rocket fuel. It's the, you know, the steam in the, you know, cylinders for the car engine, right? It's everything, but it needs to have control, focus, discipline, and it needs to be applied directly, right?
Right. And in a lot of ways, that's probably the thing that Endeavor cultivated in the best way over the course of his life, despite being a pretty shitty father, was he had a lot of discipline with regards to how he was a pro hero.
And one of the things that I think that was really cool that they brought up is because in many ways of the hopelessness of the situation of him trying to be better than All Might.
Yeah.
Because basically he began to despair inside, the fire started to not burn in a single direction. It started to just burn up everything around it, right? In a very real way that he needs to make up for. But that fire can be applied to something. It can be put into a focused direction, and some literally amazing things can happen when you do that, right? And that even if not everyone has like a fire quirk, you know, but that idea of burning in some way, however they can, that's something that everyone can see and aspire to,
right?
People might not be able to aspire to be All Might because you know, he's All Might, right?
Right.
But maybe I can be a bit like that crazy son of a gun up there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Endeavor took in terms of the literal plot in this episode, Endeavor took a big hit. I like that we are continuing the MHA style of our heroes will almost always win fights and they don't really die, but they get permanent scars, injuries that then serve as a memory or as a memento to the story development in which they had. So in this case, Endeavor looked like he's just lost his left eye. Like it just looks like it's done. Now the part where it's like still inflamed with like blood just coming off it and stuff like that, that's just super badass. Now, what's exciting about this is we brought up the idea that this is his left side. And there's a possibility that the way it looks when he ended the fight, that his left arm was just maybe burned just completely. He has in some ways taken an even bigger scar than than Shoto.
There are so many ways that this can be drawn into.
Yes, and one of the things that I've been getting into more recently in a completely different sphere of things I'm not going to go into is one of the cool things that Marvel has been doing a lot more recently with their main protagonists. Is that when they want to build them up in a different direction, you first have to break them down. In order to disassemble them to a more raw, potent form, and then focus and hone that in a specific direction, and then build the character going in there. And it's like that. That's a way you can kind of retcon and change and build characters in a good way. Now, this isn't a retcon, I would say, but this is something where we are looking at Endeavor in a new light because we are literally breaking him down. And the creator, Horikoshi, has literally brought Endeavor to his lowest point in this fight by having him not only nearly die, but having him look at the past and burn it asunder. Like the way that this was a growth episode for Endeavor, but also it was a breaking of Endeavor moment.
Yep.
I could see a much, much humbler Endeavor after this fight, not just because, you know, he's, you know, learned something crazy here, but just literally because he's realized in some ways his strength is not enough. He might need to change his focus as to what it means to be a hero. He told Shoto that he was going to become a hero that he would be proud of, the strongest man or what have you. I want to posit that those are two separate things. Someone that Shoto can be proud of is not necessarily the strongest man.
Sure.
Now, the strongest man could be someone that Shoto is proud of, but it doesn't have to be.
And there are kinds of strengths different than the ones that Endeavor has displayed up till now that Shoto would definitely be proud of, and that was the real demonstration here of him being the strongest hero currently. Because let me tell you, in that sense, right now, he is the strongest hero. There is no one that will burn hotter and longer and with more fire than he does. And I'm not just saying literally, right? Like, and that's why he actually can say things like "watch me," and Hawks can be like, "Yeah, you go," right? And burn literally like another sun in the sky, right? And everyone will see that.
Yeah. Let's shift to Hawks real quick here. Because Hawks, I feel like, deserves a good 10 minutes of discussion here. Maybe not as much, but
well, it ties in with Endeavor a lot.
It ties in with Endeavor a lot. But here's something that's really fascinating about Hawks. We really went in depth into his characterization in the previous episode. And I think this episode hones in actually on something and kind of limits a couple of the things that we were thinking about Hawks here.
Totes.
The main one here is that we know, based on his past, that he was a fan of Endeavor.
Yeah.
This calls back a little bit to Deku, a little bit to that young boy who kind of looks at the, you know, their symbol, their childhood hero, and goes, how are you so amazing? How are you so different than everyone else? I can't help but look at you. But he's looking at the back. And this episode, we have a very simple but I would say effective little sequence where Hawks gives Endeavor's back that push, that he basically is finally able to, from Endeavor's back, because he's never going to be that strong, he's never going to be Endeavor level strength, but he will be able to give him that moment to where he can have the Phoenix flames and just is so badass and stuff. But he looked at Endeavor in this case and was like, how awkward can you be?
Right.
That is something we would never hear Deku say of All Might.
Right.
Because Deku had a hero worship of All Might that was far more childlike, I would say. But we saw that over the course of this bit here where Hawks is doing that, Hawks grows up. We see him, I think it's his boots specifically that we see slowly getting bigger and bigger there. And that's when he's saying, really, just how awkward can you get? The idea that Hawks, in some ways, watched Endeavor repeat the same process.
Keep
over
putting
and over and over
sticks
again.
And stones into shapes to try and build that bridge.
Over the course of his life. Meaning that maybe in some ways, Hawks doing all this, because like this is something that I am almost set on right now. The fact that all this happened, I feel like is still far too convenient. The fact that this Nomu that provided the perfect opportunity for Endeavor to have this bright, shining moment came after Endeavor. I love the idea that the Nomu is a thinking Nomu, that it's one that has like intelligence, creativity, and
there's reason beyond that of why it would potentially go after Endeavor, given Dabi is totes a Todoroki.
Dabi is that's totally something they're building up there, but also that it has a motivation. The Nomu wants to fight the strong heroes. Like when he beat Endeavor and Endeavor's lying there bloody on his face, he's like, oh, boring. Like, isn't there anyone strong enough? And I'm like, typical villain stuff.
From the standpoint of the League of Villains, that is a great idea of something to do, because if everyone just lost All Might and it's like, oh no, we don't have a symbol of peace, well, what better way to add insult to injury to kick Hero Society when it's down is when the next best hero comes up and is like, I'm the number one hero now.
Beat him down immediately.
Like literally immediately after the thing that officially says you're the number one hero, just boom, destroy them.
Now, this could be just a story contrivance in that it's specifically at this time for the maximum dramatic impact, but I want to say that the fact that Hawks, like, I went around and he's all talking up this Nomu kind of remodeled aspect thing around the being rumors of Japan, and then, oh no, one suddenly attacks. I have to potentially look at that bit where he's watching Endeavor stay stagnant and do his awkward, repetitive thing. But Hawks grew up. Hawks grew up amongst that whole thing there. And I think he didn't lose his passion and his admiration and belief in Endeavor. But I think this moment here might have been something, I'm just going to put it out there as a theory, that he orchestrated potentially in order to give Endeavor the shot to see if he was still that guy that he admired so much.
Because there are a few things that are important to be brought up here. One, Hawks, as far as personality, especially with how it was built up, because we didn't know that in the previous episode that Hawks was a fan of Endeavor.
No.
Right?
No.
He was introduced as an absolute foil to Endeavor.
Right.
The opposite of Endeavor in just about every way. Yep. So there was some point where there was a disconnect with that admiration. And really, it might never have even been admiration. It was more of just something where when everyone else was looking up at All Might, he was constantly looking at this dude who was like, why? You know, like how awkward can you get?
Yeah, he definitely had some things that he said before that, but yeah, keep going.
But one of the other things that I think is important to bring up here, what were the things that he said in the previous episode? So there was the whole idea of Endeavor becoming the #1 hero. And with a lot of the things that he was saying, mentioning Stain and things like that, a lot of it seemed more provocateur than actually necessarily what he literally means.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Where he's more saying things to get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
One of the things that he talked about is he was like, yeah, but Endeavor, you know, like, yeah, sure, you're effective, right?
But your approval ratings.
Your approval ratings, you know, I mean,
which is the most important thing according to Hawks.
Right. That's, which may have been part of the, provocateur, right? Provocateur,
provocative aspect of his person,
exactly,
influencing.
But if that within the context of the fact that he spent his entire life growing up watching Endeavor continue to do this thing when it meant nothing as far as approval ratings.
Oh,
it meant nothing. One of the people he brought up was Stain, and Stain talked about how you heroes aren't being very heroic, right? It's about approval ratings and things like that, and commercials and whatnot.
Sure.
And here he's seeing this guy who, despite the fact that he's the #2 hero, he's the #2 hero, he should be able to take it a bit easy, right? God damn. He is hunched over, at work, dedicated, trying to build a bridge that he knows he can't build.
Yeah.
While everyone else is just relaxing in the fact that we've got All Might. Isn't this great?
This is so easy. Well, not only this is so easy, but we can
rely on All Might.
We can throw our admiration and our obviously Endeavor admired and respected All Might. But the idea that he didn't sit on his laurels in the midst of that admiration.
He didn't just bask in the shadow of the symbol of peace and know that he could take it easy. Which, from another perspective, it's like, oh yeah, so if there was someone who could be the symbol of peace in this time, could it be anyone but Endeavor?
Right. In a lot of ways, maybe Hawks is kind of like big braining this, and it's not with something so simple as his alignment or what have you, because we can totally tell he is more chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
It's actually that he is doing this more specifically because he's like, I want a way in which everyone can have that, like heroes can take their time and just have it easy.
And with you saying cool stuff like, watch me.
Right.
Maybe
we can get that back. Because in a lot of ways then, this is something that I've always thought about with Hawks' character, is they bring up the whole thing. He's so young and he's ascended so quickly. What if there was an aspect of where he just looked at the top 5 of whatever era he was in as he grew up and just modeled himself in a way after them? He's had so many great role models, but Endeavor was always the #1 role model, meaning that he never took it easy in that regard. So his motivation would be something I want to take it easy finally. I want to have that. I want to have that time. But maybe he can't because he's modeled so much of the way he is after Endeavor. That's why he's so hyper competent. That's why in some ways he takes every opportunity he can to kind of look like he's lazing around. Like the way he just kind of casually talks and he's just like,
and what was that he said where he was like, I have a tough time controlling myself?
I think what he said was, I think he mentioned some aspect of his self-control being something that was a little. Oh, right. Remember how he zipped his lips on the stage, and it was like, oh no, I have to unzip them, and then he unzips it, and then he takes the mic and he goes and has his little provocative statement or what have you. Yeah. I'm guessing the thing is that he has some aspect of self-control, which maybe Endeavor does have a little bit of a fun picture of the differences between the two, where he has because some aspects of self-control, but other aspects, if you know more of his personal life, you're like,
like he really doesn't, and that's
not as much,
and that's something where in a lot of ways, once he gets that figured out, though, he does it in extremes, right? Because he's a fiery guy, right?
Yeah.
So if he's got the self-control thing, he's got it down.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it, right?
Right. And everyone else kind of suffers because of that.
Exactly.
Like, not just him. Like, obviously you suffer if you don't have yourself under control.
Right.
But it's more so when you have a godlike hell flame fire cord.
Exactly. And in a lot of cases, Endeavor probably thrives the best when he's under the most pressure.
Because we have seen moments, where the situation becomes dire and he kind of rises to the occasion extra.
But I
saw
think
that at Hosu.
Right, but I think that's also something of drawing an analogy with All Might of how he didn't kind of like he both did well with All Might around because he was trying to surpass All Might.
Right.
But it was also something where he didn't do well in that because it was an impossible task. You know, there was the whole thing. The flame ended up. Yeah, exactly. Right. And all the bad stuff happened.
Yep.
You know, as a result of that.
For sure.
It was his fault, but that was something where his nature did not. His best was not brought out, right? In this situation where all the pressure's on him, all the focus is on him, this is time to perform. You know, you go out there and burn bright because everybody needs that, right? They need it right now more than ever.
Yeah. My last thing that I kind of want to bring up with Hawks was they brought up the idea that, well, because this is a thing of where he is not the strongest. They brought up multiple times kind of the aspects of his quirk here.
Yeah.
We saw him do incredible things for the people around him there. And one of the things that I think is very important when you talk about a character that seems to have a little bit of a chaotic neutral aspect there is you still need to find out whether or not they have a soul, like a human soul. Because one of the things that is like where their priorities are at when they're in a really dire situation here.
Right.
We saw two things be prioritized here. He helped the civilians first.
Right.
And I mean, he saved so many people's lives here. Yeah. Now, this is not just a thing of where it's like the right thing to do or what have you. Like, he was strained to the max in order to do that.
Yep.
And then he strained himself even further beyond that when he realized, oh God, I don't know if Endeavor can actually do this. Right. He needs a little bit of help.
Yeah.
And he was the only person there who could legitimately help him. But there was nothing in this act of helping him that served him.
Right.
The only part that technically served him for like approval ratings or what have you was saving all the people. But no one knows necessarily that he gave him the wings or what have you to help all that. There was flames and all that stuff gushing around. So I want to bring up just the idea that despite all this stuff we're saying about Hawks and being like him having maybe some ulterior motive or maybe even working with villains or what have you, he is a hero.
Right.
He is a hero. He is a bit of a I don't trust him necessarily.
I trust him a lot more.
But I trust him a lot more in this episode.
A lot more after this.
Because this was something where Endeavor succeeding in becoming a potential new symbol here was huge for whatever his desires are. I mean, beyond whatever it means to him personally, that was something that was absolutely important. So
You had to mention that there. But yeah, we got to see everyone looking in on this moment here. It was a 210 United States of Smash combined with like animation Sakuga of all the best we've seen this entire season, maybe other than the moment where Deku goes off against Overhaul. Yeah, but this was so freaking good. Like
Okay, so one thing, this is a small thing, and it doesn't really matter, but I just find this hilarious. So the past couple days, I've actually sometimes I'll go on sort of binges where I'll try and do like D&D tabletop RPG character builds, and literally for the past 2 days I have been obsessed with the idea of
to make an Endeavor build,
trying to make a fire cleric.
Wow.
like
just Forge domain, but like
it was in Pathfinder, but basically trying to figure out how to do the most awesomeness with like just fire stuff. Cool. And then this happens, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is just great. But
there you go.
You
have even more inspiration to do it.
Yeah, there's so much that I love about how they're doing Endeavor here, because it's taking that, like, it's a lot of the similar things of why I love like A Silent Voice so much. I love redemption stories, right? And here we have a redemption story where we can't like I wasn't even wanting a redemption story for Endeavor, right? I'm like, no, you are a horrible father. You're an asshole. You are awful.
Yeah,
you're absolutely awful. And then here, it's just like, okay. But what if we did? I'm like, oh no, right? You'd have to bend over backwards. Watch me.
Yeah. You remember those moments in season 3 towards the end, and then also throughout season 4 here, where they were giving us little Endeavor moments where I'm like,
yeah,
So this was built up, but like there were so many little things I think they did in these last 2 episodes that added a bit of extra to it. The other thing I think was a fun little thing, but something that I feel like is really important here, is that Endeavor is not well liked by the majority of people that have like he's not in everyone's top like 3 most liked heroes, but he is in the like top 10 of most respected heroes in a lot of ways. But there was this kid that they showed in last episode and this episode, and that kid was a character.
Oh yeah,
he was like, he had the funny moment of, oh no, you're not being like Endeavor at all.
He was crying blood, I think, when that happened.
Yeah, but then there was also the bit in this episode where he's all like, why are you guys doubting?
Yeah.
Why are you guys
see
not
those
looking?
Flames still
He's
burning?
Still fighting.
Yeah. Why are you running? Like,
right.
Just look.
Yeah, and he's in some ways incorporating that message that Endeavor, gave to all the heroes there. So I have to assume in a lot of ways that kid was there. He heard all of that. He took it all in, and this is what happens when you are a hero. And this is something that MHA does rather well. Is what does it mean to be a hero?
Yeah.
One of the things that it means to be a hero is to inspire others to be heroes themselves.
Yes.
In this episode, that kid went from being the fanboy like Deku to being the hero.
Yeah.
For so many people that were watching on television there.
I think I've finally been able to sort of condense why I love what they're doing with Endeavor so much.
Okay.
So this show is about a bunch of people with superpowers, but they don't call them superpowers. They call them quirks.
Oh.
And it's about how all these people, and everyone has a quirk.
Right.
Is able to use their quirk to make the world better. Right? How much does that tie in to, real life, right?
Yeah.
Where we all have our own little quirks, right?
Some of them are not helpful.
Some of them are not helpful.
Nope.
Some of them have gotten us in a lot of trouble and have caused people around us a lot of pain.
Right.
Right.
Now we can't blame our quirks.
Right. We can't just
actions.
Blame it on our quirks. Right. But the thing is if we take ownership and responsibility for our quirks, we can bring those quirks to bear in a way that is spectacular.
Right.
And even if it's something where the quirk itself is something where most people would look at it with scorn or contempt or even just like fear or whatever, right? It is possible And even if it was that way for us, for other people, whatever, there is always the possibility to turn it into something new, to have it to start wholly new today, and have it be something where people look at it and instead of just going, oh wow, look at that thing, that's weird. They look at it and they go, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and in addition to that, it doesn't need to be something where you change their perspective on your quirk.
Exactly.
That's the thing I think that Endeavor puts out here that's so good, is that he's not seeking forgiveness for the actions in which he did in the past. Those actions have a little bit to do with his quirk, but those are, let's be real, those are more to do with the problems within his character.
Right.
These actions here, again, don't really have anything to do with his quirk. They have to do with the actions of his character. So when you take action specifically, you are not trying to seek approval ratings. You don't care about making everyone like you in the best possible circumstances.
Yeah.
But when you take actions with your quirk, there is going to be someone out there, even if it's just some strawberry-haired kid who's a little bit obsessive about you.
Yeah, a little bit obsessive, and was like, hold on, you're not
acting like yourself.
Yeah.
They can then be inspired and create that ripple effect to where others are affected in a positive way. Even if those people wouldn't have been able to accept you, they were able to accept it through the other person.
Where they basically say, hey, no, maybe it'd be better to look at it this way. And then suddenly a bunch of people who would just sort of look at like, oh, their heads turn and they're like, oh,
yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
So, and that's just
it's just really good.
I love that.
It's really simple. It's really good.
So much.
This was one of the best episodes of MHA for sure.
Yeah.
We got ourselves an end credits scene that we need to talk about here.
Yes, we do.
We're going even more leaning into the Avatar kind of stuff going on here with past lives and all that. Deku,
so
Deku is through his dreams setting up kind of a new plot line, I would say mechanic of One for All. Something that we've seen in the past, but I think it's more of a thing of where Horikoshi might be kind of like taking that bit, which is probably the most awkward plot hole for a while now with Shinso, and being like, no. There's an actual reason for that. As to why it conveniently happened there, it doesn't matter. But the point is that Deku is tapping into his past lives via One for All. He's tapped back to the original one. Thankfully, there's only 9, so he's not seeing hundreds of avatars, what have you, for the last 10,000 years or what have you. But what's exciting about this is the kind of internal progression for your protagonist that leads towards the end game of the actual story for Deku, progression-wise. So, if the original wielder of One for All, who, by the way, got that quirk from All for One. The guy who didn't have multiple lives, who is the same person. Like, that is the same guy who is at Camino City, like at the Camino Ward or what have you.
Well, and also that wonderful cycle of the whole idea that even out of something awful, something good comes out of it, and maybe, that whole thing.
Sure. But within the idea of what it means for Deku's quirk, one of the crazy things about One for All is it's taking all that has come before it and it keeps crystallizing it and turning it into that which is...
Cultivating and passing it down.
And passing it down. How much has been cultivated and passed down? Well, all we know is basically what All Might's told us. There could be so much that we have yet to understand about One for All just because there have been, 7, not including All Might, previous wielders who all have not only their own stories, but their own struggles and specific things that they overcame.
Sure.
And I gotta say, one of my favorite things about Avatar as a show was the idea that there's a lot of people that believed in Aang. There's a lot of people that are like, he'll one day save the world. But when it came down to how Aang did things at the very, very end, there was wisdom that he drew from the past.
Yes.
But it was a combination of him holding the past, the future, and the present in tandem. And in this episode with Endeavor looked at a past of his, a potential future of his, and he struck out along a new path.
Right.
Deku's is probably the most lineage, kind of your choice doesn't matter as much potentially kind of path. Where because you're this, you're fated to do all these things a specific way.
Which is where the choice that becomes even more important because of that.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just really excited to know what kind of flow of information and conflict comes as about of him learning, through the previous One for All holders.
Well, so I've got a few things to say on this regard. One, there's the whole idea of that the reason that Deku will become the greatest hero is not because he'll be the strongest hero,
right?
Even though maybe he will be, but it will also be because of what he will do, right? Like in the case of Shigaraki does not need to be defeated. Shigaraki needs to be rescued, redeemed, saved, right?
Yeah.
And that'll be very complicated and all that, but which is awesome, and I love how the whole lineage thing ties into that even more of Deku making a decision that is not the smash all for one's face in. Right. Shigaraki isn't all for one, but you know what I mean. But also, when he woke up, so there was the
crackling energy.
Now, one of the things that they have done thus far up to now with One for All is that Deku has only had conscious control over it. So, with the exception being with Shinso, because it was the past lives and all that stuff.
Are you meaning that he never went Avatar state? Is that what you're saying?
Basically.
Okay.
So one of the things that I think is really important here. Now, it needs to be Deku, right? I'm sure maybe there could be some Avatar state thing a la Shinso, but that's not quite as interesting. But whenever you're getting better at something, there's unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence.
Yes.
So
that
is
the progression.
You don't know how much you don't know.
Right.
Then you know just how much you don't know. Then you know that you
know what little you do know.
Right. You know what little you do know, and then you don't even know what you know. Right.
Yeah.
Like the idea that you get to the point where you're so good at something that you don't have to think about doing it. And
it's riding a bike.
So it's riding a bike.
When you're riding a bike first, it's scary because you don't know how to do it, and then you realize, I know this is the way to how to do it, but I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And then you learn how to do it that way. And then you get on the bike the next time and you're like, I'm not even thinking about
how to do it. Thinking about something else completely. Yep. You don't think about breathing, right?
Right.
And that is what we've seen with All Might in All Might's previous state. All Might didn't think about, he had to because of his wound, but it wasn't something of, I need to, whatever amount, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It was just, no. This is I have fully taken in this quirk and made it my own so that it is a part of me, right? Yeah. It is such a part of me. It's an instinctual part of me.
Yeah.
And that's something that Deku brought up earlier in this season with the whole idea of, oh, wait a minute. I don't need to necessarily use it. When I do use it, I can use it just in one part of my body at a certain amount at a certain time, things like that, right? And he's figuring out how to get more technically capable with it, right?
Yeah.
But he brought up the idea of, oh, wait, did All Might didn't actually, if All Might was using 100% power all the time, he would leave destruction in his wake and things like that, right?
Right.
But you would never know that looking at All Might, right? It's just, he just walks around, right? That's why I'm so excited with that little bit of, imagery that they did there, because it's hinting at the idea that eventually Deku will get to the point where he doesn't have to think about using One for All.
Yeah.
He just does.
Yeah. Visually, there's something kind of interesting that they did in this little scene here. There's no All Might. All Might's not here.
Yes, that is true.
But Deku is the only one wreathed in this bluish green, teal, kind of dark, kind of cloud or what.
He's not fully there.
Right. But I kind of want to posit the idea in that this is showing that he hasn't progressed fully either.
Yes, sure.
This is showing that he has a ways still to go.
Right.
Now, differently though,
the two brothers, the origins of this whole thing, they have trailing off of them this dark red and black energy.
Yeah.
And then we see the famous scene in color this time of the brother being given what would end up becoming One for All. Like, he gave him basically the power to store power, or to store quirks, or to store like energy or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember
because it
ended up being like a combination of two, which is what caused it. But yeah,
right. So the quirks that he already had a quirk, and then because of that, his quirk was the ability to pass on quirks, or to pass on power.
Right.
And then it combined and melded with the quirk that All for One gave him.
Store up power. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And then he hears actually from the voice of the brother, he's like, so you're the ninth. And he wakes up and his hand is trembling with the energy here, and the season ends.
And
but what I kind of want to bring up here is something that's rather fascinating, is that All Might at the Shinso moment, he said, I never had that happen.
Oh.
So
gotcha.
I want to bring up the idea that Deku is not just going in some place that All Might hasn't been, but because of something within Deku, something special about him, something with regards to how he's done things, he's going to go way beyond All Might.
Yeah.
And
plus Ultra.
Right, plus Ultra. But as to what that actually means for him, I feel like it's going to be something with regards to the memories that they pass on to him, and the energy that he would always show when he would go like One for All, he would channel it into something like that. That is literally the alternate dimension energy, or what have you, where the previous lives or what have you are in, or what have you, when you saw them in their like swirly energy or what have you. This was the energy there. So as a visual thing, I'm curious as to what it means exactly.
Also, one thing that I just have to bring up, because it made me think of it, but I love the idea of, one, that Endeavor did a plus Ultra moment, which is great for tying it into, like, you know, previous scenes with All Might.
Yeah.
But the idea that he was like, I really hate that motto, but plus Ultra, you know, like that was
I've always
just
hated this school motto.
Yeah, but like,
I feel like it's almost a little
wonderful.
fourth wall breaking, because plus Ultra doesn't make sense in the English kind of bit of it there. Plus Ultra, it's like more. Is that what it means? Like,
yeah, more everything. Like, yeah,
more maximum. That's literally
all. Yeah.
Like if you were to kind of like use synonyms or what have you to try and make it work, it's like they're basically saying more maximum. It's like it's the equivalent of To Infinity and Beyond, but it's not as catchy, I would say.
But I love that Endeavor hates it because from
it reminds him of.
Well, it reminds him of All Might, right?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect where maybe there's some bad blood there, but also the idea that in a lot of ways he's always doing the like plus Ultra. He's like, yeah, of course, sure. You know, he's like, what? So the motto is you guys just say it so that, you know, eventually at like certain points you'll actually do that. Oh, come on, I'm trying to live there.
I live like, plus Ultra.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. So that was just I just loved that. But
yeah, we got ourselves a crazy fight. We got ourselves crazy good character focus and development.
So good.
We got actual Mad Lad Rop giving us the most beautiful edits on all this wondrous animation. So Rop, you are a legend. Thank you so much. You are the MVP of this season of MHA. Like,
hands down.
Absolutely.
We also got another shot of Dobby. Like, not Dobby,
now,
but
I kind of want to bring that up because it has been a thing where they've conveniently never really shown the face of the red-haired kid.
And they always,
Yeah.
Good job finding that quickly.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. It's the part where showing Todoroki's, Shoto's quirk and what have you. But yeah, they really don't show the face. It's getting kind of obvious, but it's like I'm dreading that eventual moment where this is going to be another thing that breaks down Endeavor.
Sure.
Like, he is potentially the scandal kid.
Oh, definitely.
That we don't know
that's why
anything about.
Oh, sure. And I am waiting for the point where Dobby essentially confronts Endeavor, because this feels like a precursor to that, given that he was the one who sent out the Nomu, right? But
sure.
But because Endeavor has had this moment, right, I am confident that we will be able to have that moment with Dobby be an emotional climax of some sort rather than just like a battle.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
Because Endeavor will have gone on a journey, and then Dobby, he will then have to make a choice of what he's going to do, right?
Right.
So I just...
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah. It's really exciting. So, y'all, if you made it to the end of the discussion here, you've been watching all our reaction discussions like that, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to do a special thing in the comments here for those of you that watch all the way to the end of these really long discussions here, just because y'all are legends, and MHA has been a really special show for us. But if you made it to the end of this here, let's find something. What could be something that like Endeavor or
what was his burning
prominence burn or prominence
whatever what was it that
it was
said?
Prominence something. Let me bring it up here. But yeah, if you made it to the end of the discussion here, give us a comment with the name of his special attack. I think it was Prominence Burn.
Yeah, something like that.
And just let us know, like, kind of what was your favorite, not only your favorite moment about this one there, but I'll try and have some of the moderators send us a bunch of comments that, feel like really kind of appropriate ones there. Of course, no spoilers, but
right.
We'll use something with Prominence Burn.
Yeah,
Prominence Burn in the comment there.
You guys are wonderful for sticking around at the end of this discussion here. This was an incredible episode. It was a great season. It ended on such a high note, and I think it's
unexpected too.
But I feel like it's been a while since MHA has ended on such a high note.
I know.
I feel like usually it's in the middle arc or in
it's kind of part of the transition into like the next bit. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So this was really good. But we'll be there for season 5 when that comes. This is exciting, y'all. But thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. This is the end of season 4, but if you want to get involved with any other kind of discussion regarding other shows or what have you, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. Any level support gets you access to our Discord, where you can chat with us about MHA, about other kinds of anime stories, characters, what have you, like Jacob's sci-fi novel that he wrote.
That's right. I wrote a sci-fi novel. It's called Battle Lines, and it's really awesome and cool. It's on Amazon. Link in the description down below if you want to check it out.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see it there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.